What was the first tool ever invented? It sounds like a simple question, the kind you'd ask a child. The answer seems obvious, a rock, or maybe a stick. In a way, that's not wrong. But it misses the real story. The real story is bigger, and it's much more important. Because the first tool wasn't just an object, it was an idea. It was a leap of imagination so huge it changed the course of life on this planet. It's the moment we, or our ancestors, stopped just being another animal and started becoming something else. Let's get the simple part out of the way. Animals use tools all the time. A chimpanzee will find a good hard stone to crack open a nut. It will even carry that stone a short distance to the nut tree. An otter will find a rock and use it on its belly to break open a shellfish. A crow will bend a piece of wire to fish a grub out of a tube. These are all examples of tool use. The animal finds an object in its environment and uses it to solve a problem. It's clever, it's impressive, but it's not invention. The chimp doesn't change the rock. It finds a rock that is already the right shape and hardness. The crow modifies the wire, which is a step closer, but the fundamental leap happened long before that. The real invention wasn't using a rock, it was making a better rock. It was the moment a distant ancestor picked up one stone, and with a clear purpose in mind, struck it with another stone to make it sharper. That's the line, that's the beginning of technology. To find that moment, we have to go back. Way back. Not thousands of years, but millions. We have to go to the grasslands of Africa, a place that was changing. Forests were shrinking, giving way to open savanna. For our small, ape-like ancestors, this was a problem. New dangers, new foods, new challenges. Survival meant adapting, and some of them adapted in a new way. For a long time, the oldest tools we knew about were called Old Darwin tools. They are named after Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, a place where paleoanthropologists have found incredible fossils and artifacts. These tools are about 2.6 million years old. They aren't fancy. If you saw one lying on the ground, you might not even recognize it as a tool. It looks like a fist-sized, rounded river rock that's had a few big chunks knocked off one side. That's exactly what it is. The creature who made this was likely Homo habilis, which means handyman. A fitting name. Homo habilis had a bigger brain than the ape men who came before it, the Australopithecines. It was still small, with long arms and a chimp-like face, but it was on our line. It was an early human, and it was a toolmaker. Imagine one of them walking across the savannah. It finds the carcass of a large animal, maybe an antelope, killed by a lion. The lion has eaten its fill and left. Here is a massive source of food, high-energy meat and fat. But there's a problem. The hide is too thick to tear with teeth and nails. The big bones are full of rich, fatty marrow, but they are impossible to break. This is where the idea comes in. The Homo habilis doesn't just look for a heavy rock to smash the bone. It has a plan, it has been to a riverbed, maybe a mile away, and selected a particular kind of stone. A hard, fine-grained stone like chert or quartzite, a stone that will break in a predictable way. It's also carrying another stone, a harder, more rounded hammerstone. It places the first stone, the core, on its thigh or on a large rock. Then, with a precise, practiced motion, it strikes the edge with the hammerstone. It's not a random bash. It's a controlled blow at just the right angle. Crack. A flake of stone shears off. This flake is thin and razor sharp, sharper than a surgical scalpel. This is the first knife. With it, our ancestor can slice through the tough hide of the antelope. It can cut muscles away from the bone, but it's not done. It strikes the core again. Crack. Another flake comes off. The core stone itself is now a tool. It has a jagged, sharp edge. This is the chopper. It's heavy. It has a good grip. With this, the handyman can chop through joints. And it can use the blunt end to smash the long bones, getting at the marrow inside. This isn't one tool, it's a toolkit. The core, the chopper, the sharp flakes. Each has a different purpose. This is a system, and it represents a revolution in thinking. Let's break down what had to happen in the mind of that hominin. First, there was foresight. It had to think ahead. I will be hungry later. I might find a carcass. I will need a sharp edge. This isn't living in the immediate present like most animals do. It's planning for a future that doesn't exist yet. Second, there was material science. It had to know which rocks were the right rocks. It had to learn that a soft sandstone would just crumble, but a hard chert would fracture perfectly, creating that razor-sharp edge. This knowledge wasn't instinct. It had to be learned through trial and error, and it had to be passed on. Third, there was physics and geometry. The toolmaker had to understand angles. It knew that hitting the core straight on would just crush it, but hitting it at an oblique angle would peel a flake off. This requires incredible hand-eye coordination and a brain that can understand cause and effect in a sophisticated way. This process, called napping, is not easy. Modern humans who try to replicate old Allen tools find it takes a lot of practice. You get a lot of useless rubble before you get a good sharp flake. This means that Homo habilis didn't just invent this on the spot. Young ones must have watched the elders. They must have practiced, they must have been taught. And this is the beginning of something else monumental: culture. Culture is the transfer of knowledge from one brain to another without using genes. Making a stone tool is one of the first clear acts of culture. The invention of the tool changed our ancestors. It changed their diet. Access to meat and marrow provided a huge boost of protein and calories. This new fuel source was exactly what a growing brain needed, and so a powerful feedback loop was created. Better tools meant more meat. More meat meant bigger brains. Bigger brains could invent even better tools. This cycle of tools and brains drove our evolution for the next 2 million years. It's arguably the reason we are here today. The tool also changed our bodies. For using tools, especially making them, requires a special kind of hand. We have a long, opposable thumb and broad fingertips that allow for two kinds of grips. We have the power grip for holding the chopper tightly, and we have the precision grip for holding a small, sharp flake to do delicate cutting. The very shape of our hands was sculpted over eons by the tools we made. The toolmaker was shaped by the tool. But the story gets even older. For decades, the Oldowan tools were the beginning. They were the first chapter, but science is always moving. New discoveries are made. And recently, we found an even earlier chapter in Kenya at a site called Lomekwi. Researchers found stone tools that are shockingly old. They are 3.3 million years old. That's 3/4 of a million years older than the Oldowan tools. That's a huge amount of time. And what's really interesting is who made them. Homo habilis didn't exist yet. The genus Homo, our own genus, hadn't even evolved. So who made them? We don't know for sure. The best candidate is a creature like Kenyanthropus platyops, or maybe an Australopithecine, the family of the famous fossil Lucy. These were hominins with brains not much bigger than a chimpanzee's. This discovery challenges everything. It suggests that the mental leap to toolmaking might have happened before the evolution of big brains. Maybe the tools came first, and they are what kickstarted the growth of our brains. These Lomekwian tools are different from Oldowan ones. They are bigger, cruder, and clumsier. The technique used to make them was simpler. It seems the Lomekwian toolmakers used a more brute force method. They would either smash a large core against a stationary anvil rock on the ground, or they would hit it with a two-handed slam. The goal was the same: to shear off a sharp flake, but the skill and finesse of the Oldowan nappers wasn't there yet. It was a more basic version of the idea. It was technology 1.0. The existence of Lomekwian tools shows us that this wasn't a single, sudden invention. It was a long, slow process. There were probably countless failed experiments. There were probably hominins who figured it out, and their group died out, and the knowledge was lost. There were probably others who got close but never quite mastered it. What we see in the archaeological record are just the successes, the ones that stuck. And that brings up another crucial point. The first tool was almost certainly not made of stone. Stone is what survives. A stone tool can last for 3 million years, waiting for someone to find it. But what about wood, or bone, or a horn? Imagine a hominin even before the Lomekwi toolmakers. Maybe an Australopithecine, it wants to dig up some tasty roots or tubers. It finds a broken branch from a tree. The branch is a good length, but the end is frayed. It uses a rough rock to scrape the end to a point. It has just invented a digging stick. That digging stick is a tool. It was intentionally modified to perform a task. It's a product of the same kind of thinking, but that digging stick rotted away 3 million years ago. We will never find it. We will never find the first sharpened bone used to pry insects out of a log. We will never find the first tough plant leaf used to carry water. The archaeological record is profoundly biased. It only preserves the hard stuff. So when we ask, what was the first tool? We are really asking, what was the first tool that we can still find? And the answer to that is a simple, intentionally sharpened rock. But the real first tool, the very first object ever modified by an ancestor to solve a problem, is lost to time. It was probably something simple, something organic, but the thought process behind it was the same. The spark was the same. That spark of an idea changed social dynamics too. A sharp flake of stone is not a great weapon against a lion. Early humans were not mighty hunters from the start. They were clever scavengers. Tools allowed them to be fast and efficient. Get in, cut off a limb, smash a bone, and get out before the hyenas or lions came back. This kind of activity requires cooperation. One or two individuals stand watch while others butcher the carcass. And what happens after? They carry the meat back to a home base, a place of relative safety, and they share it. The tool isn't just about getting food, it's about creating a new social world. A world of cooperation, of sharing, of a home, a place where knowledge can be passed on, where tools can be made and stored for later. This simple object, a broken rock, is the foundation of everything we have built since. Every tool we use today is a direct descendant of that first Oldowan chopper. Your smartphone, the car you drive, the pencil you write with, the clothes you wear, the house you live in, all of it. It's all just a more complex version of the same fundamental idea modifying the world around us to solve a problem. The core of that idea is abstraction. It's the ability to see a tool inside a rock. It's looking at a round, useless cobble and seeing the potential for a sharp edge within it. It's a kind of magic. It's the magic of the human mind. Once our ancestors crossed that threshold, once they learned to see not just what things are, but what they could be, there was no going back. That mental leap was far more important than the tool itself. The rock was just the first medium. Or later, it would be bone, then wood, then bronze, then iron, then steel, then silicon. The materials change, but the impulse is the same. The impulse is to look at a problem, and instead of just accepting it, to think, I can make something to fix this. So, what was the first tool ever invented? It was a piece of rock, flaked by an ancient hand on the African savanna. But it wasn't just a rock. It was a thought made real. It was the birth of invention. It was the moment our ancestors stopped being passive subjects of their environment and started becoming active agents of change. It was the beginning of our story, and we've been telling that same story with newer and better tools ever since.